This episode is brought to you by Anchor. Anchor is by far the easiest way to start making your own podcasts. Anchor has many creation tools to help you edit, record, and even publish your podcast to your favorite podcasting apps, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And above all, Anchor is completely free. So start growing your podcast today by downloading the Anchor app or visiting anchor.fm. Anchor, everything you need to make a podcast all in one place.
Michael, you need a fart or anything before we get going?
President Abe Lincoln. No.
Okay.
That will be a mid-show treat.
What is Abraham Lincoln? Did you dig him up?
Just the tip
Of his hat?
of his hat.
Thank God. Well, what's happening, friends? Welcome to episode 16 of Next Gen News Week, your weekly podcast for all the news about the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 as we creep closer to the launch this November. My name is Mitch, and tonight I'm joined with Michael.
Howdy.
And Richard.
Hello.
And returning special guest, Steven.
Yo, yo.
All right, this podcast is for the week of September 1st, 2020. And guys, it's September, and we still don't have pricing or release dates for these next-gen systems that are supposedly coming out in 2 months. What's the overall feel about that going into this month? Do you think we're ready to... Are we going to get pricing this month, or are we just going to find out how much they cost whenever they hit the shelves?
I feel like they're going to be subscription-based. You'll get the console for free, but you have to maintain the service like OnlyFans.
It's like how long into the podcast before Michael talks about OnlyFans?
3 seconds.
Not even 3 seconds. Anyway, it's definitely a big point of contention, especially since we kind of know when the Xbox is coming out, but we don't know when the PS5 is coming out. And Sony sent out some mysterious emails letting people have a chance to be notified about PlayStation 5 pre-orders that were sent out about a week or so ago. So it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping we are going to get to see the pricing.
That email was really weird. It really was, because the way I read it, it was that what they're going to do is, well, first of all, they said that they would be in short supply. So I feel like there is going to be a scarcity issue at the end of the year when it does launch. But I don't know how scarce it's going to be, because in the email, there was a sign-up section where you would put in your PSN ID. And then, at least the way they worded it, and this was the way I took it, is that they're going to take everybody that responded and then I guess sort of like raffle the names, and then only a handful of people may get an opportunity to pre-order, which sounds kind of weird. But then for their 10-year PSN promotion, they just randomly gave some people $10 credit to their PSN wallets. They didn't give it to everybody, just random. So I guess in that regard, it kind of does make sense.
If there's 114 million PlayStation 4 players out there, and they sent out emails, and even just a majority or a good chunk of them responded to those emails, they would have to, that's a lot of PlayStations to be trying to push out by doing that.
Yeah, it really is. But, if they're going to do that with current PlayStation subscribers, I wonder what sort of availability that's going to look like for like GameStop or Walmart or your big box stores.
I don't know, but I bet they're more strict on how many you can get per customer than they have been before. I know with the Switch, you were only allowed to buy 2 of them. Like that was the cap. I don't remember what it was for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. The Xbox One probably didn't have one, but I don't think it was most people probably weren't going to buy 2 of those. Anyway, so we're going to jump in to some news. We don't have a lot of news to talk about except for some game reveals from Gamescom, but just a couple of little things happened throughout the week. First off, last week we talked about this game that was revealed like the day of recording last week, which was Black Myth Wukong, which is a game that's based off of a lot of Chinese mythology. It's being developed by like a team of 4 out in China. And now, Richard, you weren't here last week, but did you get to see that trailer that they dropped for that game?
Oh, I did. No, I'm very excited. To me, I don't want to. I'm speaking as just a basic white guy, and I don't want to make this assumption. But Journey to the West is what it's based off of. And the only way that I can describe that, at least in my opinion, is that it's kind of like the Chinese Lord of the Rings, because there's a lot of fantasy involved. There's a lot of adventure. It's a lot of Chinese mythicism. And there's actually a film that came out in 2013 called like Journey to the West Demon Hunter. It is a Chinese film. You'll have to, watch it with subtitles. But man, that's a really exciting, an awesome movie. And I'm hoping the game is even remotely close to that type of adventure.
Well, the news that came out about it was actually just something that the developer put out. He said that the video that was shown, that 13-minute gameplay, was actually made to attract other developers to help him get the game made, and that he wants people who are just players to forget that they ever saw that, because it doesn't represent the final vision of the game. And I think it's a weird flex, honestly, because that game's like one of the best looking next gen games we've seen. And he says, don't even pay attention to it, pretty much, because it's not even going to look like this whenever it's done.
And for a developer to say that this isn't going to reflect the finished product, I've heard this a lot dealing with the indie horror game side of things. And 9 times out of 10, it just turns out that the game is exactly how the gameplay was portrayed. Maybe a few minor tweaks to the mechanics, or a minor update on the graphics or something, but or maybe a tweak to the storyline from what we saw. But 9 times out of 10, there's really nothing to be changed. It just seems like it's like you said, it's a flex.
I think Steven's right. For the most part, I mean, especially lately, they have been, well, this doesn't really indicate what we really think. And I think that's partially to do with, like, the graphics. And, I mean, for a team of 4 guys to put that out, I mean, that is pretty incredible. There's been larger teams that have put out huge steaming piles. So, I mean, that in and of itself, just those 4 guys, that's an accomplishment.
Well, you remember several months ago, whenever there was the first Xbox Series X showcase where they showed off that game Bright Memory Infinite, which to this day I still think is the best looking next gen game. That game is made by one guy. He's doing all that by himself. And to your point, something that's actually, getting hated on a lot right now, Madden 21, which has a team of 300, 400, 500 people, and that game looks like crap. So,
right.
I don't know. It's weird. It's all about, like, I guess the heart that they're putting into it and whatever engine I guess they're using. But sorry if you're a Madden fan, but that game just looks like, to Michael's point, like a hot pile of crap. Let's jump to the next bit of news. Insomniac Games, their big release coming up for this holiday is Spider-Man Miles Morales, and it looks like also that Ratchet and Clank may not be quite at launch, but will be there shortly after. So this came out at Gamescom, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on. But they pretty much confirmed that Ratchet and Clank is, like, if not completely done, it's almost done, and kind of hinted that it's going to be out within the PlayStation 5's launch window, which could be anywhere from when the console comes out till, I think, the end of January. So Insomniac Games really kind of stepped up and got all these games ready to go. And I don't know, Richard, since you're probably the first out of all of these people here to get a PlayStation 5. Are you excited that Ratchet's coming out so close to PlayStation 5, or you think they should have held on to it and waited a little bit longer to drop it?
Ready, then yeah, go ahead and put it out. I think that there's kind of a push to have some big name titles to come out with launch, just to sort of, with Microsoft pushing back Halo Infinite, not necessarily a direct slap in the face, but it does kind of convey a message of, hey, we do have stuff ready. So there's a selling point there with having launch titles available that look nice, that look good, that really pull the console, because Halo sells an Xbox. Ratchet and Clank has always been a staple of PlayStation. So I think if it's ready to be put out, then it should be put out. But I also think there's kind of maybe a backhanded statement along with it.
You're saying they shouldn't do like Nintendo's doing, where they're sleeping on the Metroid Prime trilogy until they can release it closer to when Metroid Prime 4 comes out.
No, there's no Metroid Prime. There's no such thing as Metroid Prime 4 either.
You just broke like some people's hearts by saying that, but
it doesn't. Nintendo has forgotten how to make a good game. Why don't are they making who's making Metroid 4?
Next Level Games.
Next Level.
Next Level is a second party company of Nintendo.
That's right. What did they do the last Punch Out?
Yes, they did Punch Out. They've done the past 2 Luigi's Mansion games. They did Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze.
So trash developer. Okay.
Look,
I think they're pretty good.
No, I did not.
Okay.
The standard that I have for Nintendo, Nintendo will probably never be able to beat it or meet that.
Not every game can be the Wind Waker.
That was a good one.
I was expecting you to fire back with like,
No, Wind Waker's up there, man. That's
okay. There's another part of this Ratchet and Clank thing, but I'm gonna kind of just make it like an open thing, I guess. How do you guys feel about games having like performance modes? So like, Ratchet and Clank is not the first game to do this, but it's got a version of the game, or a mode, I guess, where the game outputs at 4K, but it is only 30 frames per second, so you can enjoy how great the game looks. But it also offers a mode where it hits a performance mode where it hits 60 FPS. I mean, they haven't clarified what the resolution is, but I'm assuming it's 1080p. Michael, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Steven, and then back to Richard on this.
I mean, most PC games have that built in, but it would be a nice feature to have included on especially next-gen consoles where they do have that option and there is 4K output. So you can choose, hey, maybe frames per second isn't that essential for Ratchet and Clank. I would like to really take in the scenery versus, Call of Duty, whereas you want the frames per second so you're not missing a shot.
I'd have to agree. I think more so, though, it would be, it's like a matter of perceptive. Are you there for the scenery, or are you there for the performance? And I think it's whatever strikes your fancy. It's really nothing to it in my eyes.
I'm more performance over picture, so I usually lean more towards whatever's going to give me a faster speed, even if it does have to. Because what I found is you do sacrifice a little bit of the look, but not enough to where I'd be willing to make that cut in performance. So it's definitely a matter of opinion. I don't know why you wouldn't include it, though.
We'll kind of just hit, I think Michael said it already, but like Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is also going to have this performance type of thing too. I think we mentioned it last week, but I'm really excited because it's gonna be the first time that console players get to see what 120 frames per second looks like for multiplayer. So that's gonna be really exciting to see. And to quickly jump, using that as a segue, we have to talk about Call of Duty again. But before we jump into the new stuff, again, Richard, you weren't here. You want to tell everyone what you thought about the Black? What? Yeah, excuse you for not being here at the last minute last
Black
week.
sheep of the family.
Do you want to tell everyone your thoughts about the Black Ops Cold War trailer? Because you seemed pretty excited about Ronald Reagan last week.
Well, that's just because I'm excited about Ronald Reagan. I hate to be that guy. I really don't like Call of Duty. So,
Wow.
this is but it's a Black Ops game, right? So,
Yes.
it's weird that it's the setting is the Cold War, because typically Cold Wars are, well, they're not what you would ordinarily associate Call of Duty with. So I don't know, if it's. I know the big push with Call of Duty is playing multiplayer. So that wouldn't be what I would play it for. It would definitely be for story, and it would almost have to be a little bit on the stealthy side, which it may be, but
I think this one's supposed to be. I told everyone last week I wasn't trying to like put words in your mouth, but I thought you had said that you didn't. I know you didn't like Call of Duty for multiplayer, but you did like playing the campaigns if they
I
were.
do like playing the campaigns. Now, I'm not a big fan of the modern stuff. I like when they do the World War II and the more historical things, but I may give this one a shot because I do love stealth.
Yeah. Well, that being said, this one's gonna make your brain hurt a little bit, and
Oh,
this is
no.
about how Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is handling the next generation pretty much, because it was confirmed that the game's coming out November 13th for current gen, but they have not released when it's coming out for next gen because we don't know when the consoles are coming out. But like a lot of games, it's going to have a way to upgrade it to the next gen version when it becomes available. And with Xbox, for a lot of their stuff, they're using the smart delivery system, which is where this is a refresh. If you buy a game, no matter which system or version of Xbox you have, it's going to make the game look the best as possible on that. And that's not how Call of Duty's doing it. So the bundles that are out are the regular version of the game that's $60, and it will let you play the game on PS4 and Xbox or PC. If you have a PC and that's where you're playing Call of Duty, all you have to spend is $60 unless you want the collector's edition. But for the next gen systems, for $70 you can get the cross gen bundle. So for that extra $10 you can upgrade your game to the next version. However, if you're somebody who doesn't want to spend the extra $10 on Call of Duty, there's a lot of different little weird things that are happening with that. So I'm just going to read this off to you. PlayStation 4 players will be able to take their copy, like their PS4 version of Black Ops, and put it in their PlayStation 5, and it won't download those updates to make it where it gets the higher performance. It'll be the PS4 version running on the system. Xbox One players will not be able to put the disc in a Xbox Series X or Series S, and it just won't work altogether. No smart delivery, no nothing. However, if you buy the PlayStation 5 version of the game, you're not able to put that disc into a PlayStation 4 and make it work. But if you buy an Xbox Series X version of the game, you can put it into an Xbox One and it'll work. Is everyone's brains hurt now?
Yes.
It sounds like PS5 would be using like a digital sort of handshake. No, Xbox would, which is how they could go upscale from an old game. But PS5 wouldn't. They'd be using the physical handshake on the disc. So just different ways of copyright DRM.
The big takeaway is if you know you're going to get a Series X or a PS5, buy the cross-gen bundle. Pay the extra $10 before you have to save yourself a bunch of headache. I definitely recommend it. Steven, I think I asked you last week, are you planning on getting a next-gen system at launch?
I do not think I want to get it at launch. I have a thing about bugs, and I'm pretty sure if it's anything like the previous generation consoles, they're going to have tons of bugs.
Last generation did come with a bunch of roly-polies.
So I kind of just don't want to deal with that. Not really sure. And also, do you think they're going to be doing this for a lot of the future games that's going to be coming out on the next gen, as far as cross-gen editions of the games? You think there's going to be a thing?
Totally. Like, some companies have come out and said, like, our next gen upgrades are free, like Cyberpunk. Like, if you buy the game on Xbox One or PS4, you get a free upgrade. I don't know for sure how many companies outside of like Activision and EA are make people pay to do the upgrade. Because I know Microsoft is trying to. They have this big focus of telling everyone this shouldn't be something that you have to pay for. And so but these companies are going to try to squeeze as much money out of you as possible. That being said, just real quick, Steven, if you're not planning on buying a next gen system right away, but you are planning on buying Black Ops Cold War when it comes out, are you gonna buy the cross gen version so you just have it ready to go, or do you just buy the $60 version?
Definitely, I'm going to be buying the cross gen. There's going to be a lot of games. If that's something that they're going to do, I'm definitely going to be buying the cross generations on all of it. And I'm sure a lot of people will probably say that's a waste of time or a waste of money. But I don't see it that way, because once they figure out these major bugs that are going to hit, I mean, I'm not going to wait for like the next edition or anything like that. But I do want them to work out those huge kinks in the beginning. 2-3 months maybe. I'll get one. Yeah.
Richard, any additional input on the buying a cross-gen version of a game if you're not sure you're going to buy the system at launch?
I think it depends on the timing of when you're going to buy the console. We talk about, I'd love to play Ghost of Tsushima, but I made the decision to not buy that because I'm sure there's going to be a PS5 edition. I don't know if it's going to be, well, even if there was, say, a cross-gen, if I were to buy that game now, I'd play it now, I'd finish it now. I don't know if I would go back and play it simply because it would look differently on a PS5. I think I'd just rather wait until after I have the PS5. So, there is an audience, obviously that the cross-gen is going to attract, but I think it depends a lot on the game too. Especially something like Call of Duty. I mean, it would make sense to buy something cross-gen. But if you're talking about like a narrative-based cinematic experience, then maybe not, because you might not want to do that 2 times, depending on how epic, the size of the game is.
Like, so to throw a little bit of input on both of those, like, if I wasn't buying a next gen system and I didn't have a computer, and I wasn't going to buy one at launch, to your point, I don't know if I would buy the cross gen version. It would just depend on how close we are to the next Call of Duty. In this particular case, would I want to spend $70 on, say, Black Ops Cold War, but I don't buy it until like June or July of next year, whenever we know that like in October there's going to be another Call of Duty game to come out. And also, to another point you said, I can't see myself buying another version of The Last of Us 2 since I've already beaten it on PlayStation 4, because I mean that game looks gorgeous, but like, am I going to put myself through that again just because I want to see what it looks like in actual 4K? And so,
yeah, exactly. You got something like Call of Duty, you're going to be playing multiplayer. You're not. That's just something you're going to play all the time anyway, if that's what you're into. You have something like Last of Us 2 or something like a God of War or something like that. You may not do something that epic, that size. So in that case, I don't really think a cross-gen is a selling point.
I think I'm going to wait. I've always been a late adopter for consoles, unless it's been like a really unique Nintendo console like the Switch. I was there day one. The original, like the Wii U, not so much. I waited about like 6 months or to a year or so before I got that.
You didn't buy a Wii U at launch? What is wrong with you? That's the best system they ever made.
It was really good, and I really liked the design of it, and I wish on some aspects that setup had carried over with the Switch, having a home base that could, like, I don't know, wirelessly distribute to the console, so what way you have TV play while on having a handheld mode. I wish that was still an aspect. But I digress.
I didn't think I'd hear
PS4
anybody say that in 2020, honestly.
The PS4, I waited several years before I eventually got it, and then it was like $200, as opposed to like almost, I think, nearly $500 when it first came out.
I waited a year, but that was only because I couldn't decide between the Xbox One and the PS4.
Right. And now that I have like a solid PC rig, I'm not so sure I would need a newer console.
That's kind of where I'm at with it. It's like, I've got a PC that can run most of these next gen games the way that they were intended to. And so, and as far as the PlayStation 5 part of it, like, I don't see a reason to buy one other than the fact that I just want the piece of tech.
Right.
There's no games unless they just surprise us and say Demon Souls is a launch game. I don't see a reason why I would want a PlayStation 5 at launch. That's just me, though. Not trying to steer anyone else away from it. Like, if you're a big fan of Spider-Man, or I think the Avengers game is going to be there with its new update at launch, or Call of Duty or Cyberpunk or anything, and that's just what you want to get. Cool, but like personally, I just would rather just game on my computer, and I don't even have to buy a Series X because I can play Halo Infinite whenever it finally comes out.
Is that what we were talking about? I'm sorry, my headset cut out when all the PC snobbery started, so I couldn't.
Well, I'm about to revisit the original question, but that brings up like an article I just read where Sony is actually considering bringing more first-party games to PC. And I think that's just to kind of fight the Xbox Game Pass sort of deal they got going on. But back to the original question, I think it would depend on whether I'm going to get that system early life or midlife or late life. If I'm waiting, if I'm planning on getting it within like 6 months, yeah, sure, I'll go ahead and get the upgrade edition. But for a gamer like myself, like that waits until there's sales and waits till, a lot of the bugs have been worked out, it's not necessarily like a need to have sort of thing for me.
Well, only time will tell. Hopefully, everyone who needs those cross-gen versions every game that you're wanting it to be on will have one. And whenever you're able to get those next-gen systems, you'll be able to play it in the best way that you can. However, like I said at the beginning, if you're a PC gamer, you only have to pay for the $60 version because you spend $700 on your graphics card. You can do whatever you want. But
so nice.
Yes, debating whether we should spend time talking about the RTX 3000 series, but what? Maybe next week.
Next week.
So jumping from PC gaming, let's talk about mobile a little bit more, because every week we're going to have probably new information for a little while about the ongoing Epic Games and Apple Fortnite nonsense that's been going on. So Apple and Epic are in the middle of this big lawsuit now with Michael. Can you just recap real quick if you remember how that went down? Because I don't remember off the top of my head.
Basically, Epic decided to pick a fight with Apple originally, and it kind of spilled over onto Android over a relatively minor issue where every developer already pays 30%, and Epic, I guess, in my opinion, just decided they got a little too big for their britches and decided that was not good enough. And kind of to subside and get gamers on their side, they actually cheapened their the V-Bucks, but not the Battle Pass, as to note. Just to kind of like pass along that savings, like, oh, we're not even worried about the 30%. We're gonna give it back to you. So now that's just an ongoing legal battle.
Well, the big thing that this article that we're going to talk about goes off of is that when all this went down, Fortnite is no longer available to download off of the iOS and the Google Play stores. And Fortnite just entered, Chapter 2, Season 4? Did I get that right? Or the Avengers stuff. And if you can still play Fortnite on your iPhone or your Android device, but it no longer gets these new updates for the game. So you're not able to play like any of the limited time modes, like I guess with the stuff the Avengers. You're not allowed to purchase Battle Pass content or any new costumes. You were just kind of stuck where you're at right now. But if this is something that has directly affected you, Epic Games has offered a solution. Now, this only works on Android devices. This does not work on iPhones. I'm sorry if you play Fortnite on an iPhone. You should probably just buy a Switch. But you can actually download Fortnite directly from their website, and it'll work instead of having to download it through Google Play. So that way you can access the game still. But again, I'm sorry if you're only playing Fortnite on an iPhone, but pretty much this is how it's going to be going forward until this all gets resolved. And the last thing we're going to talk about really is Gamescom 2020. We mentioned it last week about how there was going to be a ton of games that were getting announced, and there were about 40 or 50 games in total, including all the indie games that were announced. So instead of rambling off a list of all 50 of these games, just asked everyone to pick out about 2 of them. And if you've got an extra one or only have one, that's cool. We'll just kind of run through what we thought was our favorite games they showed off. Let's start with Steven. What was a game that you thought stood out to you that was from Gamescom?
I looked at Scarlet Nexus, not for the reason of gameplay or style or graphics or storyline or anything like that. It's because it just reminds me of every other mobile game that they have out like that. The Ruby, the RWBY game, I guess it's considered the name Ruby from the anime. And any other game that's shaped like that, it just looks bland. Now the gameplay, don't get me wrong, the gameplay may be awesome. The storyline may be awesome. But just from the outside looking in, just scratching the surface on it, I'm curious on how it's going to go. Is it going to be another run of the mill? It seems like it has an amazing name, but it just turns out to be a dime a dozen. Second game I was looking at was Stalker 2. And honestly, I don't know how to take that game.
Depends on if you have a restraining order.
Well, I guess that opts me
out. Just real quick, not trying to cut you off. It's really funny to me that you say you don't like the stuff about Scarlet Nexus, because the last time we saw that game was during an Xbox show, and that was Michael's best of show whenever we saw that game last. So that's it's a different input to have on it.
Yeah.
It's just, I just see it all the time. You see it all the time on mobile gaming. You see it on the YouTube commercials. You see it in the Google Play Store. You see it in the Apple Store.
I mean, yeah, he's got a point. That generic anime look with the cell shading, I get it. I do. I do have a little bit more hope for it, though, because it is by the same people who did all the Tales games, like Tales of Symphonia, Tales of Vesperia. So I do have some high hopes for it.
Also, I'm looking forward to Little Nightmares 2. I've been a fan of that game since day one.
Absolutely. All right, Richard. Top 2 or best 2 games to show from Gamescom 2020.
Well, I like that they debuted more stuff about the expansion to Doom, but it's kind of hard to talk about that without spoiling the game if you hadn't played it yet. I know it came out early in the year, but I know there's probably some that may not have done it. Aside from that, I know Steven's already talked about it. Mitch, I think you're going to talk about Little Nightmares too. Maybe we can talk more about that, Mitch, if you wanna talk about that, because probably the thing that, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I was really interested in, but as far as something I didn't know about, would be that game 12, which looks like a Microsoft exclusive, so I'll probably have to end up playing that on PC. But it fascinated me. You've got a voice crew. You've got Willem Dafoe, you've got Daisy Ridley, you've got James McAvoy. These are really talented actors that are lending their abilities to this game that apparently takes place in that one apartment about a guy stuck in a time loop with dramatic events happening. It's one of those things that just looks like after you play it, it'll really stick with you for a long time. So that definitely really stuck out as something that was just, really wowed me as far as the entire show goes.
Well, cool. Yeah, well, I will spend a little bit of time talking about Little Nightmares 2 in a second, but Michael, let's jump over to you.
For a person who grew up not really caring for first-person shooters, I got 2 of them on my list. I'll start with the more unique one. It's Lemnis Gate, which the best way I can describe that is a tactical time first-person shooter. And from my understanding, like each round is like 25 seconds. So you have 25 seconds to run around the map and cause some mayhem, disrupt your opponent before you, I guess, are sent back to your original zone, and then it's your opponent's turn. Whether that's like laying traps or disrupting your timeline or whatever, shooting your after image, it looks really interesting. And then I'm not really sure how I feel about it since it was really just more of a trailer than anything. It's Unknown 9, which really just features this girl. She's like getting chased through the street after like hiding something, and then all of a sudden time stops and you realize she's like a precog. So she's just able to like dodge stuff. So I don't know how that's really going to play, especially since she's like a little girl. It's not like she's going to pick up an AK-47 or something.
Did you see the tagline to that game?
I did not.
It said that it was about a girl that is haunted by images of her own death.
Okay.
Oh.
So that adds a little bit of the mystique to it as well.
Okay. But yeah, I'm a little interested in that one.
All right. So I'm gonna, since we kind of already talked about Little Nightmares, yeah, that was like Little Nightmares 2 was one of the games that I was really excited that was shown off. Like we've known this game's coming. It was been kind of quiet for a while. It did get pushed out of this year to February 11th of next year, which seems like it's kind of far away, but it's not.
Yeah,
Once we go to the holidays,
the 14th, make it romantic.
Yeah, Valentine's Day. So pretty much the game is just gonna pick up where the first game left off. There's a new character who is called Mono, which is a boy wearing a brown paper bag as a mask. They haven't really shown off a lot of. I mean, they showed off a lot of gameplay. I haven't got to sit through and watch all of it, but there is a extensive first preview of that game. But yeah, and that's coming out for all the current systems, the Switch, the PS5, and the Series X. So that's going to be really exciting to get to play next year. And the other two were, it's literally stuff we've kind of known was coming. But first off, they did an extended preview of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which was just the Situation Room with Reagan. But it was just the full trailer for that. And it was really intense, especially towards the end of it. And the reveal trailer for Fall Guys Season 2, which is going to have lots of medieval costumes and levels and stuff. So they're definitely going this route of, looks like each season is going to be themed differently than the last one. So, we've seen it before. Fortnite does this, and I think Apex does it. So, it's nothing new, but it's just... I'm really excited to see how they're going to keep this game alive, because they showed off like 7 new game modes, or whatever they're called, events that they're adding to the game. So it's going to be really exciting to see where they keep going from there. I don't know where they'll go from fantasy, but I bet outer space ends up being a part of it at some point. But that's going to be cool. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for just our best of shows from Gamescom 2020. If you want the full list of games, I definitely recommend checking out the articles on Kotaku.com and IGN and wherever else you get like your written media for gaming, because there's lots of hands-on coverage, and we'd be here for 4 hours recording, talking about all of these games. So definitely recommend reading up about and watching the trailers instead of just listening to us talk about them. And finally, since we've had kind of a lighter week this week, I thought it would be interesting to do something called pretty much just a gaming moment of the week, which is pretty much just It can be about anything that personally that you've done in a video game, or something that it may not even happen to happen this particular week, but it's something that was really exciting about gaming that maybe you read about, or you saw it happen on like a live stream, or something that actually happened to you in a game. So would anyone like to go first if you have one?
I'll go. It's not quite a gaming moment, really just a someone I looked up to as a child. So I remember doing research. I used to love Pokemon to death, and I still do, but I've toned it down a little bit because I'm an adult, and
Okay.
I'm going to kill myself. But I remember back in the day doing research, and I'll attribute a little bit of it to probably just being like a stupid kid, and probably half of it to poor translations of articles back in the day. But my idol used to be Ken Sugimori, because I could have swore he was the creator of Pokemon. And really, he was just an illustrator. And he was still, part of that team. I think the original creator was Satoshi Tajiri. And so the story I remember was this guy, which I thought was Ken Sugimori, had this game idea and didn't really have any real knowledge of it, but he based his game idea off of his pastime of collecting bugs and battling them, which is a fairly common Japanese pastime for kids. Is that they'll find the biggest beetle and they'll make the beetles fight, and that's how Pokemon was developed. And the story goes he submitted this idea to so many different developers, but all of them turned him down until he got to Nintendo. Well, evidently, that wasn't really right either, because I cannot find that story at all anymore. But he developed Satoshi Tajiri and Ken Sugimori basically had a fanzine that eventually got publicized into a real magazine, and then they turned it into a game company called Game Freak. And then while they were developing Nintendo, the Pokemon, they submitted to Nintendo, and Nintendo was like, that's a little fucking weird, but we're gonna roll with it. And it took them 6 years to actually finish coding and developing Pokemon, and during that time, Satoshi Tajiri was basically starving to death and lost 5 employees because he couldn't pay them. So Pokemon almost didn't even get made. But now it's this huge success. And on top of it all, he's on the autistic spectrum too. He failed high school, and he still made this amazing game and came all this way over just a simple pastime that he had with, collecting and fighting bugs.
I remember reading about this several years ago. The current head of the Pokemon company, Junichi Masuda, I think he took over after Gold and Silver, maybe. And so his first, game in the franchise was Gen 3, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. And there was a lot of articles about how that he was someone else who lost a lot of weight because he was stressed out about the games coming out, because there was kind of a decline in popularity for Pokemon after Gen 2. And he actually was having night terrors every night for the last month leading up to the game's release, because he was so terrified about what would happen if the game flopped. So these people really take their job seriously, and it's and I'm grateful because Pokemon is maybe not Sword and Shield's my favorite, not the best one, but they definitely have carried this franchise a long way from where it began at. So
right. I mean, sacrificing a lot to get it there too.
I don't know how we're supposed to follow up with something like that.
Right?
I feel like we should have went first. What am I supposed to say? I'm playing Red Dead Online. I mean, I don't know the history of Sam Hauser or Dan Hauser and Rockstar. So
I did a 360 no scoped and killed 2 horses in a row.
No, don't worry. Mine I mean, mine's in the notes, so you kind of know where mine's going. So it's kind of a lighthearted ending. So just shoot whatever you want. It's okay. Just whatever you got.
Well, if we're talking about illustrators and game developers, as much as you guys probably don't want to hear it, I am an avid Five Nights at Freddy's fan. And I like the backstory of Scott Cawthon. He was Christian raised, and he was trying to make good, wholesome Christian games for children and everything. And every last one of them was tanking. Like it was terrible. Barely making any sales, unable to provide for his family and things like that. In his last ditch effort, he decided to make Five Nights at Freddy's. Not necessarily gory, but it leaves you this mystery, this paranoid factor. When you're first playing the game, it's not how you're going to die, it was when you were going to die, when it was going to be game over. And of course, after playing it for a while, you'll get the gist of things. But then came the lore, which made the game even more popular. Then you had the theorists who jumped in. We got Matt Pat from the Game Theory, who jumped in, and both of them blew up from that. And he continued to come out with more games and got voice actors. The graphics got better and everything. And I just love the fact that, that was his last ditch effort to do something with his family. He was going to go back to pushing grocery carts, and, it wouldn't even have been the thing in the indie game community. But as far as the game that I'm going to gloat over, is Eternal Champions, a game made on Sega in 1993. I finally beat the boss after all these years.
That's awesome.
Nice. It's always good to go back and if say in your case, you're not able to beat this boss and you have to just get away from it for a little while. And, maybe something like with life happens where you kind of just forget about it, and then you come back and you're like, okay, let's try this again. It was like a hurdle you had as several years ago, and it's like you finally are able to put it to bed, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I'll never load that game up ever again.
All right, Richard, let's talk about Red Dead 2 or Red Dead Online.
It's nothing new. I've actually given it the time that you can say it deserves. I've played the hell out of Grand Theft Auto Online. I'm so sick of that city and just everything. And they've added a lot when it comes to the roles and stuff. It's actually a little bit more in depth than the game itself, I would say. But yeah, you can be a moonshiner, you can be a hunter. You basically just kind of live a life in the Wild West, and the level of griefing has really went down. I mean, you still occasionally come across someone like that, but for the most part, everybody's just trying to work their way through these roles, so everybody kind of leaves everyone else alone.
Didn't you say sometime within the last week that a griefer came after you and killed your horse?
Oh my God, a little kid, yeah. And so I didn't understand what was going on, because I'd gotten off my horse and entered a building because I was looking for a tarot card. And I could hear gunshots, and I could hear a horse making these god awful sounds. So I ran out and I noticed that it was my horse. And there was this guy that was across the field and he was shooting my horse. So I go out there and I pull my rifle out and I start shooting him. But what's odd is he was still shooting my horse. It was like he was intentionally trying to kill my horse, even when I was shooting at him. I didn't understand what the hell was going on. So my horse collapsed, and I gave it a revive to bring it back, but I don't know if it glitched or something like that. My horse actually disappeared. So I thought this son of a bitch killed my horse. So anytime you lose your horse, the game gives you this default horse called Scrawny Nag. It's absolutely horrible. So I had to chase this guy down half the map just to kill him, because I was really upset, because I've had this horse since I've started Red Dead Online, and I know it's odd to have an attachment to an animal that actually isn't real, but he's a Breton breed. His coat is Red Rowan, and I call him Old Red. And man, that's my horse, man. Don't mess with my horse.
Hey, the first time my horse was murdered in cold blood in Breath of the Wild, I was really upset about it. So I mean, I get what you're coming from.
But I don't understand why he was targeting my horse. That doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, what kind of a dick do you have to be that you want to kill someone's horse?
Horse hater.
Well, I hate it for Old Red. That's a.
Oh no, Red was fine. It just for
Okay.
some reason it put him back at the stable. I don't know. It's never done that before, so I had to like ride to a town on that stupid horse just to get my other horse back. But it ended up being a good thing because of course, I still got Old Red. So
Yeah.
Just imagine like the horse, the whatever it was called, the stupid one. It's just like
Scrawny Nag.
you can just tell something's wrong with it when you look at it.
It's
like
horrible.
That, like
it's
that horse
like
in Family Guy.
It's
You know
an
what I'm talking
anorexic
about?
horse that has absolutely no stamina. It's the worst horse ever.
Thing. All right. Mine is actually something. It was something that actually happened involving Fall Guys. That was a big benefit. It was a big charity stream or a big charity event. 2 weeks ago, whoever the genius is that runs the Fall Guys Twitter, he put out a thing and said, "Hey, whoever donates the most money to this charity organization called Special Effect, we'll put a skin based off of you in Fall Guys." And so people were going back and forth for all the 2 weeks, and then eventually they all decided, instead of them trying to outbid each other, they were all going to come together and put all their money together, and that way, and they ended up donating $1 million to the Special Effect Foundation. Special Effect, they do a lot of stuff and make accommodations for gamers who have physical disabilities to make it to where they're able to still be able to play video games. They do a lot of stuff using like that Xbox adaptive controller that came out a few years ago, and and sometimes even just make them like custom controllers. So they were able to donate $1 million to that charity and just recognize people who did it. It was Mr. Beast, who is a big he gives, I don't know, I know he's a YouTube star, but he gives away like a lot of money on like Twitter. The company Aim Lab, G2 Esports, and someone who I've starting to grow more fond of, but used to dislike, Ninja. Used to not really care for him, but he's been doing a lot of stuff in the gaming community recently that's making me really got a lot of respect for him. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So,
And
yeah,
it doesn't date children, so it's all good.
yes, does not date children. So anyway, yeah, that thanks to those guys, that's a lot of money that can go to a lot of good causes at Special Effects. So thank you to them for for donating their money to do that. And with that, we are out of topics, so we're going to go over the poll from last week and give you a new poll, and then we're going to get out of here. So the poll last week was, what game mode are you most excited to try out in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War? And 71.4% of you chose wrong. The correct answer was zombies, but
I thought the best mode was going to be turning it off, but
Wow.
35.7% for campaign and multiplayer. They both got 35.7%. So, and then zombies with 28.6. So
Bringing up the rear. Good job.
bringing up the rear, and unfortunately for these poll numbers are a little jigged because I voted off of my personal Twitter because I wanted to get the ball rolling. So, but whatever.
Wait, was that the only vote that zombies got?
Look here, Richard.
oh man.
This week's poll is a lot easier because you only have two choices. It's are you frustrated that the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 have yet to reveal their price and release date? So yes, are you frustrated? No, you're not frustrated. Probably, if you're saying no, you probably have a PC or you're just not playing a game when it launched. But if you have any other input to throw in that, make sure you comment that down below the post, which that post is available on twitter.com/NGNW podcast. So make sure you go vote on that. And with that, let's plug some social media and get out of here. So we'll start with Steven.
Yeah, again, it will be a shout out to my page on SoundCloud, Breaker Beats with a Z 2020. Please look for Ichigo with broken glass behind him, not some god awful Mickey Mouse character. I don't know. Shout out to Whole Foods. If you're gonna be an elite gamer, then eat elite food. But I don't know. That's all I got.
That's right.
All right, Michael.
Nothing really going on open box tech deals. Really, they are announcing. They finally did announce like some pricing details on the RTX 3000 series. So I know I mentioned last week some of the other cards have some sales going on right now. So it's kind of just up to you. Like those are still good deals either way. But if you want that extra bit of power at the cost of not getting some of those next gen games that are coming with those deals, I mean that's up to you. Unsolicited Nudes is still going really strong, and I was also recently a guest on the Geek Train. Look them up.
All right, and Richard.
Board Game Breakdown. Yeah, Twitter, Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Yeah, I learned a really valuable lesson on shooting tutorial videos on what not to do. So there's a delay in that one. That is coming up next week, and I'll just go ahead and say that the IDW Games released a pretty in-depth Ninja Turtle board game here recently, just a few months ago, and it's a tutorial video on how to make a custom dice tower that looks like a broken canister of ooze to go with the game. So on top of that video, also there's going to be images coming up of the newly painted miniatures from Marvel United that is published by Spin Masters and Simon Games. That was a Kickstarter game, but they actually did that at retail. If you want to pick that up, you can pick Marvel United up at Walmart and Target and Amazon right now. And I will say that if you buy it through Walmart, you're going to get two bonus characters. One is Ant-Man and one is Venom. And if you buy it through Target, you're going to get Ant-Man and Wasp. Why they chose to go with Ant-Man and Venom for Walmart absolutely makes no sense to me whatsoever, because there's not really any other Spider-Man-based tie-in to that game. But if you want Venom, buy it through Walmart.
All right, and if you want to find me, Twitch, Twitter, everywhere, you can type in the search bar and just type Meechflow in. You'll find me just about everywhere. Still doing live streams on Twitch, where I have been taking a break from playing story-based games. I've been playing lots of Call of Duty, which is probably what's happening as soon as this episode's done recording. So twitch.tv/Meechflow. If you want to find any of my other stuff, it's all over the internet. There's a lot of stuff, so I'm not going to try to plug every single thing right now. But with that being said, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Next Gen News Week, and we'll be back next week with, hopefully, I've crossed my fingers here, a price and release date for the Series X and the PlayStation 5. But until then, have a good week.
Goodbye. This week's podcast is brought to you by that early childhood feeling when you were 7, you got a brand new pair of shoes, and you could run so fast. So fast.
I got some Bob Ross vibes.
You're welcome.